The endless war, the void of space, trembled with the approach of two massive armadas. In the cold darkness of the Andromeda sector, a war that had raged for 5 centuries was about to reach its climax. The Zephyrian Empire's gleaming silver fleet stretched across the starfield like a constellation of death, their ships humming with contained plasma energy. Opposite them, the Molten Collective's dark vessels pulsed with volcanic fury, their hulls glowing with the heat of their internal forges. Admiral Thixon of the Zephyrian Empire stood in the command center of his flagship, the Stellar Dominion. His crystalline skin reflected the blue light of the tactical displays as he observed the enemy formation. The Zephyrians were beings of pure energy, their bodies composed of living crystal that could channel and manipulate electromagnetic forces. For them, war was a science, each battle calculated with mathematical precision. Status report, Thixon commanded, his voice resonating like wind through crystal caves. Enemy fleet detected at bearing 27 Mark 4, reported his tactical officer. The Molten Collective has assembled their entire war fleet. Count shows 8,000 vessels of various classes. Thixon's crystal features hardened. The Molten Collective represented everything the Zephyrians despised. Where his people sought order and precision, the Collective embraced chaos and raw power. Their warriors were beings of living metal and stone, creatures who had evolved in the hearts of dying stars and volcanic worlds. Across the void, General Corax of the Molten Collective prepared his own forces. His massive form, carved from obsidian and flowing magma, dominated the bridge of his flagship, the World Burner. The Collective's ships were not built but grown, forged in the hearts of planets and tempered in stellar furnaces. Each vessel was a work of art and destruction, unique and deadly. Zephyrian dogs gather their pathetic lightships, Corax growled, his voice like grinding stone. Today we melt their crystal bones and drink their energy essence. The war between these two civilizations had consumed entire star systems. Planets had been reduced to ash and slag, billions of lives lost in the pursuit of absolute victory. The Zephyrians fought with cold precision, their weapons designed to drain energy and shatter molecular bonds. The Molten Collective preferred brutal, overwhelming force, their weapons capable of igniting atmospheres and cracking planetary cores. Neither side remembered what had started the conflict. Some said it began over territorial disputes in the outer rim, others claimed it was a philosophical difference about the nature of existence itself. The truth was buried under centuries of hatred and destruction. In the vast space between the two fleets, something impossible was about to happen. A single ship, smaller than even the smallest fighter craft in either armada, drifted silently through the void. The vessel was barely 200 meters long, its hull a dull gray that seemed primitive compared to the advanced technology surrounding it. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Determination, humanity's first interstellar exploration vessel. Her crew of 37 had been traveling for 18 months, following deep space signals that had led them to this remote sector of the galaxy. They had expected to find new worlds, perhaps even primitive civilizations. Instead, they had stumbled into the middle of galactic warfare. Marcus, what are we looking at? Chen asked her science officer, Lieutenant Marcus Webb. Webb studied his instruments with growing alarm. Captain, I'm reading massive energy signatures from both fleets. These aren't just military vessels, they're mobile weapons platforms. Each of the larger ships has enough firepower to glass an entire continent. Chen felt her stomach drop. Entire military consisted of a few dozen ships armed with nuclear weapons and kinetic projectiles. The technology displayed by these alien fleets was beyond anything humanity had imagined. "Communications, any response to our hails?" she asked. "Nothing, Captain," replied Communications Officer Lisa Park. "Both fleets are maintaining radio silence. They're not even acknowledging our presence." Chen made a decision that would change everything. Open a channel to both fleets. Broadcast on all frequencies. The bridge crew exchanged worried glances. They were one small ship facing two massive armadas that could vaporize them without a second thought. But Chen had not come this far to run from the first sign of trouble. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earthship Determination. We are representatives of the human species, and we request immediate cessation of hostilities. We are willing to mediate this conflict." The response came swiftly. Both fleets turned their attention to the tiny human vessel, Admiral Fixon's cold voice cut through the void like a blade of ice. "Unknown vessel, you are trespassing in a war zone. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed. This conflict is beyond your comprehension." General Corax's burning voice followed. "Insignificant specks of metal and flesh dare to interfere with the collective's righteous war. Your presumption will be your destruction." Chen felt her heart racing, but she kept her voice steady. "We understand you've been fighting for centuries. We're offering to help find a peaceful solution. Surely there's a way to end this without more bloodshed." Fixon's laugh was like breaking crystal. "Peace. The molten collective are destroyers, incapable of reason. They must be eliminated completely. The crystal forms speak of elimination." Corax snarled. "They are the ones who started this war with their arrogance. We will melt their ships and forge their remains into monuments to our victory." Chen watched the tactical displays as both fleets began to move into attack formations. The space around them filled with the hum of charging weapons and the glow of energy shields. This was about to become the largest battle in galactic history. "Captain," Webb called out, his voice tight with fear. "Both fleets are charging some kind of superweapons. The energy readings are off the charts." On the main screen, they could see massive structures emerging from the heart of each fleet. The Zephyrian weapon was a perfect crystal formation the size of a small moon, pulsing with contained energy. The Molten Collective's weapon was a sphere of living magma, growing larger as it absorbed matter from nearby asteroids. "Those weapons," Webb whispered, "if they fire simultaneously, the explosion will destroy everything within 10 light-years." Chen stared at the tactical display. Both superweapons were targeting each other, but the resulting explosion would annihilate both fleets, along with any planets or life in the surrounding systems. Two entire civilizations were about to commit mutual suicide. "Time to firing," she asked. "Approximately 15 minutes, Captain. Both weapons are following identical charging patterns." Chun's mind raced. There had to be something they could do. Humanity had survived ice ages, plagues, and world wars by finding solutions when none seemed possible. Their species had a talent for thinking outside the box, for seeing possibilities that others missed. "Engineering, what's our maximum power?" "Output?" she asked. Chief Engineer Tom Rodriguez looked up from his console. "Captain, our entire power grid produces about 1% of what those superweapons are charging. We couldn't even scratch their shields." "I'm not thinking about direct confrontation," Chen said. "What if we don't fight them? What if we do? Something they don't expect." She studied the tactical display, her mind working through possibilities. The alien fleets were positioned in perfect formation, their superweapons aligned for maximum destruction. But there was something familiar about the pattern. Marcus analyzed the energy signatures of both superweapons. Look for resonance frequencies. Webs. Fingers flew over his instruments. Captain, both weapons operate on harmonic frequencies. The Zephyrian weapon uses electromagnetic resonance, while the Molten Collective weapon uses thermal resonance. If they fire simultaneously, they'll create a feedback loop, Chen finished. That's what will cause the massive explosion. They're essentially building a galactic-scale bomb. The bridge crew looked at her with hope and fear. They could see she was forming a plan, but none of them could imagine what a single human ship could do against such overwhelming force. "Captain," Park called out, "both fleets are hailing us. They're ordering us to leave immediately." Chen stood up, her decision made. "Tell them we're staying, and tell them that if they fire those weapons, they'll destroy everything they've ever fought for." "Captain, they're not listening," Park reported. "Both fleets are continuing their attack preparations." The superweapons continued to charge, their energy signatures growing stronger by the minute. Chen watched the countdown timer on her screen. 10 minutes until both civilizations destroyed themselves in a blaze of mutual annihilation. "All hands, prepare for emergency maneuvers," she announced over the ship's communication system. "We're going to do something that's never been attempted before." She turned to her crew, seeing their trust and determination despite their fear. "We're going to position ourselves directly between those two superweapons." The bridge fell silent. Everyone understood what she was proposing. The determination would place itself at the exact point where both weapons would fire, directly in the path of forces that could destroy planets. "Captain," Webb said quietly, "that's suicide. We'll be vaporized the instant those weapons fire." Chen smiled grimly. "Not if we're very clever about it. Tom, I need you to reconfigure our deflector array. Marcus, calculate the exact intersection point of both weapon trajectories. Lisa, prepare to broadcast on all frequencies when I give the signal." As the crew worked frantically to implement her plan, Chen stared at the tactical display. To ancient civilizations, locked in a war that had consumed everything they had ever cared about. They were so focused on destroying each other that they couldn't see they were about to destroy themselves. But humans saw things differently. Where others saw insurmountable obstacles, humans saw opportunities. Where others saw inevitable destruction, humans saw possibilities for redemption. 5 minutes, 2 weapons firing, Webb announced. The determination began to move, its small engines pushing it toward the exact center of the coming storm. Both alien fleets watched in confusion as the tiny human ship positioned itself directly between their superweapons. "Captain," Park said, "both fleets are demanding to know what we're doing." Chen smiled. "Tell them they're about to find out what happens when humans get involved." The countdown continued. 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute. The human ship hung in space between two forces that could crack worlds, its small crew preparing to attempt the impossible. Captain Sarah Chen gripped her command chair, knowing that the next few seconds would determine not just the fate of her ship, but the destiny of 2 entire civilizations. 30 seconds to firing, Webb announced. Chen took a deep breath. "Execute plan, the human solution." The moment of truth arrived with terrifying precision. Both alien superweapons reached critical energy levels simultaneously, their targeting systems locked onto each other across the void. The space between them crackled with electromagnetic disturbances as reality itself seemed to bend under the pressure of contained forces. Captain Chen watched her instruments as the determination held position at the exact intersection point of both weapon. Her crew worked with desperate efficiency, their hands flying over controls as they implemented her impossible plan. Energy cascade initiated, reported Chief Engineer Rodriguez. Deflector array is reconfigured and standing by. Perfect positioning. Achieved, confirmed Navigator Johnson. We're at the exact center of both targeting solutions. Admiral Thixon stared at his tactical display in bewilderment. What are these humans doing? They're positioning themselves directly in our line of fire. General Corax was equally confused. The flesh beings have chosen suicide. Their sacrifice will not stop our righteous destruction of the crystal worms. Both alien commanders had seen many species flee before their mighty weapons. They had witnessed countless civilizations beg for mercy when faced with annihilation. But they had never seen anyone deliberately position themselves between two superweapons about to fire. 10 seconds to firing, Webb announced, his voice steady despite the circumstances. Chen activated the ship's communication system. All alien vessels, this is Captain Chen. You're about to witness something that no species in this galaxy has ever seen before. You're about to see what humans do when faced with the impossible. The countdown reached 0. Both fired. The Zephyrian crystal formation released a beam of pure electromagnetic energy, a lance of force that could pierce through the core of a planet. The Molten Collective's weapon discharged a stream of contained plasma, heated to temperatures that existed only in the hearts of stars. The two beams raced toward each other at light speed, carrying enough destructive force to sterilize entire star systems. At the exact moment they would have collided, creating a feedback explosion that would have destroyed both fleets. Something unprecedented happened. The human ship's deflector array activated. But instead of trying to stop the weapons, the determination did something completely unexpected. The deflector array split both energy beams, redirecting them through a series of precisely calculated angles. The electromagnetic beam was converted into a harmonic frequency that resonated with the fleet's communication systems. The plasma beam was diffused into a thermal pattern that interfaced with the Molten Collective's sensor networks. Suddenly, every ship in both fleets was flooded with something they had never experienced before. Information, not tactical data or weapon specifications, but cultural knowledge, historical records, and personal communications from the opposing side. Zephyrian warriors found themselves experiencing the memories of Molten Collective soldiers. They felt the pain of losing loved ones in battle, the fear of seeing their homeworlds burned by crystal weapons, the desperate hope that their children might survive the war. Molten Collective fighters were overwhelmed by Zephyrian experiences. They witnessed the destruction of crystal cities, the mourning songs of energy beings who had lost everything, the deep sadness of a species that had forgotten how to create beauty because they had been focused on war for so long. "What is this?" Admiral Thixon whispered, his crystalline form trembling as he experienced the emotions of his enemies for the first time. "Impossible," General Corax roared, but his voice cracked as he felt the grief of Zephyrian mothers who had lost their children. "To his weapons." Captain Chen's voice cut through the confusion. "This is called empathy. It's the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. Every human develops this capability naturally. We thought everyone else did too." The effect rippled through both fleets. Soldiers who had spent centuries killing each other suddenly understood the cost of their actions. They felt the pain they had caused, the lives they had destroyed, the civilizations they had reduced to ash and memory. Dr. Sarah Kim, the determination's chief psychologist, explained over the open channel. We analyzed your communication patterns and discovered that neither of your species has developed emotional empathy. You can understand facts and logic, but you cannot feel what others feel. This is why your war has continued for so long. The alien fleets hung motionless in space, their crews overwhelmed by the flood of new sensations. For the first time in their existence, they were experiencing the emotional reality of their enemies. We used your own weapon energy to create a temporary neural link, Chen continued. You're feeling what your enemies feel. You're experiencing their losses as if they were your own. Admiral Thixon's voice was broken when he spoke. The pain I felt my child die in the Battle of Zarian. Prime, but I have no child. You felt the pain of one of my warriors, General Korax said quietly. I felt the death of one of your energy singers. The beauty of her songs, lost forever because of my weapons. The two commanders stared at each other across the void, seeing their enemy with new understanding. The beings they had fought for centuries were not monsters or demons. They were people with families, dreams, and fears, just like themselves. How? Thixon asked. How do your people live with such intense emotions? Chen smiled sadly. We learn to channel them constructively. We feel pain, so we try to prevent it. We feel joy, so we try to create it. We feel love, so we try to protect it. Empathy doesn't make us weak, makes us stronger. Lieutenant Webb monitored the alien fleet's status. Captain, both fleets are powering down their weapons. All hostile targeting systems are offline. The temporary neural link began to fade, but its effects would be permanent. Both alien species had experienced something that would change them forever. They had felt the cost of war not just in numbers and statistics, but in hearts and souls. We cannot continue this war, Thixon said, his voice filled with wonder and horror. Not after feeling what we have done. The Crystal Ones speak truth, Korax admitted. We have been blind to the suffering we caused. How can we fight beings who mourn their dead as we mourn ours? Chen felt tears in her eyes. Because you didn't know, neither of your species developed the ability to feel what others feel. You've been fighting a war without understanding its true cost. The alien fleets began to move, but not toward each other. Instead, they formed a loose formation around the human ship, their weapons powered down and their shields lowered in a gesture of peace that neither species had made in 5 centuries. Humans, Admiral Thixon said, your species has given us a gift we cannot repay. You have shown us what we had lost in our pursuit of victory. We wish to learn from you, General Korax added. Teach us how to feel without being overwhelmed. Show us how to use these emotions to build instead of destroy. Chen looked around at her crew, seeing the pride and relief in their faces. They had done something unprecedented in galactic history. A single human ship had stopped a war that had raged for centuries. Not through superior firepower or advanced technology, but through the simple act of helping two species understand each other. We'll help you, she promised. But first, you need to meet with each other. Talk to your former enemies. Learn their names, their stories, their dreams. You'll find that you have more in common than you ever imagined. Over the following weeks, the first peace talks in 5 centuries began. Cepharian and Molten collective representatives met aboard the Determination, guided by human mediators who helped them navigate their newfound emotions. The negotiations were difficult. Centuries of hatred could not be erased overnight. They were possible now in ways they had never been before. The galaxy watched in amazement as 2 of its most powerful civilizations laid down their weapons and began to build something new together. The Zephyrians' precision and order complemented the Molten Collective's creativity and passion. Together, they began to heal the wounds that their war had carved across the stars. Captain Chen stood on the bridge of the Determination, watching, as construction began on the first joint Zephyrian Molten Collective space station. It would serve as a monument to peace and a symbol of what could be achieved when species learned to understand each other. "Captain," Lieutenant Park called out, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth Command. They want to know when we'll be returning home." Chen smiled. "Tell them we'll be home soon, but first, we have a galaxy to help heal." The human ship that had stumbled into the middle of an ancient war had become the catalyst for the greatest peace in galactic history, not through violence or conquest, but through the simple human gift of empathy, the ability to feel what others feel and to use that understanding to build a better future. As the Determination prepared to continue its mission of exploration and diplomacy, Captain Chen reflected on what they had accomplished. Humanity had taken its first steps onto the galactic stage, and they had done so not as conquerors, but as healers. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders, but it was also full of species who had forgotten how to understand each other. But now, they had humans to help them remember. The single human ship had entered the battle zone and ended it instantly, not with weapons of destruction, but with the greatest weapon humanity possessed, the ability to care about others and to help them. Care about each other. It was a victory that would echo through the ages, a reminder that sometimes the smallest act of compassion could change everything. And in the vast reaches of space, two former enemies worked together to build a future that neither could have. Imagined alone, guided by the wisdom of a species that had learned to turn empathy into strength and understanding into hope.